Welcome students. In our last lecture we have discussed about the mammalian reproductive system, that is in case of the female. In today's lecture we will discuss about the hormonal control in case of the female. In most of the species of mammal, the female has either an estrous cycle or a menstrual cycle. An estrous cycle is also called being in heat because the female's body temperature rises a little. However, more pronounced than changes in the temperature are noticeable behavioral changes. If the female does not become pregnant, the endometrium is reabsorbed and usually there is no bleeding. In a species in which the female has a menstrual cycle, the unused endometrium is shed and voided from the body as the menses or period, or which is also called menstrual flow. There are 5 hormones involved in controlling the female cycle. These are gonadotropic releasing hormone, which is also called GnRH, secreted by the hypothalamus, follicle stimulating hormone FSH, and luteinizing hormone LH, secreted by the pituitary, and estrogen and progesterone, which are secreted by ovaries. We'll see this structure, the secretion of the hormones, in this following diagram. As we are seeing here, the hypothalamus structure which is present will be affecting the portion of the pituitary, which will cause the secretion of the various hormones like FSH and the LH structure. Ovaries will be producing the estrogen and the progesterone, which will be secreted from the temporary endocrine gland, that is the corpus luteum, after the process of ovulation has been done. The first half of the woman's cycle is the proliferative phase, which is also called follicular phase, during which the endometrium starts to thicken. The pituitary secretes FSH, which causes one follicle to mature. It is unusual. One follicle is allowed to mature and the ovaries to secrete the estrogen. The ovarian estrogen secretion gradually increases until just prior to ovulation. This gradually suppresses secretion of FSH and stimulates the hypothalamus to secrete a larger amount of GnRH, which in turn triggers the pituitary to secrete a burst of luteinizing hormone, which causes ovulation. During the proliferative phase, a woman's body temperature is low, perhaps as low as 98 degrees Fahrenheit or 36.7 degrees centigrade or less. Sometimes there is a slight rise near the end of the phase during the pre-ovulatory burst of LH before it dips again at ovulation. Throughout this phase, the cervical mucus becomes progressively clearer and thinner. On about 14th day of an average 28-day cycle, ovulation, the rupture of the follicle and release of the egg occurs in response to the surge of LH. LH stimulates the remaining follicle cells to form a corpus luteum after ovulation. Often at ovulation, there is a sharp drop in the woman's body temperature and her cervical mucus becomes very thin and clear, and it forms thread. Interestingly, both the low body temperature and the condition of the mucus are designed to prolong the life and aid in the mobility of the sperm to increase the chances that the egg being released will be fertilized. The second half of the cycle is called the secretory phase in the uterus and the luteal phase in the ovary. Endometrium continues to build up due to the secretion of progesterone and estrogen by the corpus luteum, and this prepares the uterus for a possible pregnancy. In case an egg has been fertilized, the growing embryo needs a warmer environment to do well, so the body temperature rises. If an egg is not fertilized, as the corpus luteum deteriorates at the end of the cycle, both estrogen and progesterone levels go very low. In a pregnancy, implantation triggers hormone production that keeps the corpus luteum secreting estrogen and progesterone for a while. But without that, the corpus luteum disintegrates and stops secreting these hormones. At this time, all the hormone levels are low and decreasing. This frequently causes the mood swings and other symptoms of premenstrual syndrome, which is also called PMS. In this diagram, you can see the changes which occur in the case of the uterus portion which is present, the changes which occur in the case of the gonadotropin hormone level. As you are saying, this is the FSH level which is present, this is the LH level. On the 14th day, approximately in the 28-day cycle, the ovulation occurs, and in the third row you can see the ovarian hormone level. there is the level of the estrogen which is present, and there is the level of the progesterone. After ovulation, the level of the progesterones become higher. The hormonal changes which occur during pregnancy. The uterus is maintained during pregnancy by progesterone and estrogen that initially comes from the corpus luteum, which in turn is maintained by the hormone chorionic gonadotropin that is produced by the trophoblast. Corpus luteum later regresses and the placenta itself produces the required estrogen and progesterone. High level of these hormones inhibit secretion of GnRH and gonadotropin, thus eliminating menstrual cycle during the pregnancy period. A normal pregnancy lasts for 38 weeks from the day of ovulation and conception. Delivery occurs by rhythmical contraction of the uterus stimulated by the oxytocin. The cervix dilates and the infant moves out through the vagina. So in today's lecture, we have discussed about the various hormones which affect the female reproductive cycle. Thank you.